Hello everyone! Today I'll discuss the latest in Ukraine, summarizing the available information concisely and using maps. I'll bring it to you quickly and clearly. Thank you for your support. If you subscribe and enable notifications, you'll be notified when a new video is released. You can also watch my previous videos. Also check them out in the playlist. The situation in Ukraine. It has been 1,197 days since Russia invaded Kyiv. First, the general updates. According to the latest announcement from the Ukrainian military's general staff, which was just released, the Russian military's losses are 1,020 soldiers, 3 tanks, 7 armored combat vehicles, 88 artillery pieces, 176 drones, and 125 other vehicles. The loss of aircraft, which I reported as 14 yesterday, was later carefully confirmed by the Ukrainian military and has been revised to 41. Additionally, it has been confirmed that 2 more Russian A-50 airborne early warning and control aircraft were destroyed in this operation. This airborne early warning and control aircraft is said to cost $350 million or 50 billion yen per unit. The Russian military lost 2 of them to Patriot missiles in January and February last year, and with 2 more destroyed this time, only 4 remain. This is expected to have a significant impact on Russia's air defense and air power operations. Across the entire front line, there have been reports of 142 ground battles, and Russian military losses have exceeded 991,000 personnel. This news segment covers the Ukraine-Russia situation, often watched alongside the battle maps. You can also use YouTube's chapter feature to watch the parts you need. First, many of you may already know this, but the Ukrainian military carried out a 3rd attack on the Crimean bridge and was successful. This time, the attack involved detonating 1,100 kilograms of underwater explosives at the bridge pier. In the footage released by the Security Service of Ukraine, you can see a large column of water rising from the surface. The Security Service of Ukraine announced that they succeeded in the 3rd attack, and this time it was carried out underwater. The operation took several months, during which explosives were placed on the supports of the illegal facility, and the detonator was activated at 4:44 a.m. today. The destroyed part was the underwater section of the railway bridge pier, and the extent of the damage is unknown and cannot be confirmed. However, due to the impact of the explosion, part of the road bridge of the Crimean bridge was also damaged. The method of the attack has not been disclosed, but Defense Express suggests that it is highly likely to have been carried out using the Ukrainian military's underwater drones, as reported in a previous video. However, it is said that underwater sonar has also been installed on the Crimean bridge, and divers regularly check it visually. Even if underwater drones were used this time, it would be extremely difficult to avoid the obstacles protecting the bridge piers and approach them without being detected, so there is a possibility that another, unknown method was used. For example, it is possible that explosives were attached to a ship heading for the Sea of Azov and were separated when the ship approached the area. Second, in yesterday's video, I mentioned that the Russian economy is entering a recession, and already, new developments have been observed. Minister Reshetnikov of the Russian Ministry of Economic Development stated that our challenge is to exit the recession by easing monetary policy at the right time and stimulating growth, and he called on the central bank to lower interest rates. At the Federation Council, the minister said that after 2 years of high growth, the economy is now entering a cooling period. He mentioned that a decline in production can be seen in many sectors of the real economy. The Bank of Russia will hold a meeting on the 6th of this month to decide the policy interest rate. According to economists' forecasts, 19 out of 26 expect the rate to remain at 21%, while the rest expect a reduction of 1% or 2%. Russia is thought to be facing stagflation, and lowering interest rates could worsen inflation and ruble depreciation, negatively affecting the economy. All eyes are on the upcoming decision. Third, According to Berisutoka, it has been prohibited to compare President Putin to Hitler. At the Kirov District Court in Omsk, it has been prohibited to compare President Putin to Hitler, as well as images of President Putin with Hitler's hairstyle, photos of a woman holding a poster that says, "Let's quickly drink the poison before receiving a lead bullet," photos of President Putin holding a gun to his temple with the words, "A way to save Russia from humiliation," and caricatures of President Putin. According to the court ruling, these photos have a negative impact on society and the state, incite terrorist activities, and provoke crime. According to opinions on the internet, they must have gotten scared because the resemblance is so strong. They probably think they're looking at themselves. Some harsh opinions claim they must have realized they're destined for the same fate as Hitler. Now, let's look at the situation on each front. We'll focus on areas where there have been changes in the battle situation. If you switch to full screen on a large display, you can follow those changes along with the dates. Also, because some people overseas use this as a reference, we use YouTube-optimized expressions such as Lucian and Russian Army. The English and Ukrainian secondary audio will be released a few hours later. Northeastern area, Sumy, Kursk, and Kharkiv directions. The Russian army is targeting Sumy to Kursk as the objective of their summer offensive operation. Belgorod. I will report on the situation in the Kharkiv direction. The weather in Sumy, which affects operations, is rainy. The high is 22 degrees and the low is 11 degrees. Today's weather forecast has suddenly changed to sunny. Although sunny days are expected to continue, the forecast predicts unstable weather with periodic thunderstorms. In these areas, Russian forces carried out 18 attacks in the Kursk direction and 3 attacks in the Kharkiv direction. Kursk and Sumy directions. In this area, the Russian army is conducting a large-scale offensive operation towards Sumy, while the Ukrainian army is taking advantage of openings to attack in the Kursk direction. First, in Tetkino, which is inside Russian territory, according to geolocated footage, the Ukrainian army carried out an airstrike on Tetkino to restrain Russian movements. After that, they crossed the border east of the city and conducted an incursion inside Russian territory, attacking Russian positions one after another and advancing. What you are seeing is footage from the Ukrainian Army's 225th Assault Battalion showing their activities at a location on the map about 2 kilometers inside the border. On the battle situation map, this entire area has been updated to show that the Ukrainian army has taken control of it from the contested zone. The area is 11 square kilometers. Second, according to Russian military bloggers, in Novi Put, which is 13 kilometers to the east, the Ukrainian army has crossed the border and is controlling up to the railway station. When Russian military bloggers talk about things that are unfavorable to their own country, it's often true, but at this point, there is nothing that can be confirmed. If we are able to confirm it, we will update you again. Third, in the settlement of Kindratevka, which is located 20 kilometers to the southeast within Ukrainian territory, the Russian army carried out drone attacks on buildings in the settlement to restrain the movements of the Ukrainian army and is approaching the settlement. This is from the Russian side, and it shows what appears to be a workshop-like building at the location on the map. On the battle situation map, it was updated to show that the contested area has expanded by 1.5 kilometers to the edge of the settlement. Fourth, also, south of Yablunivka, which is 15 kilometers to the east, there was a spot where Ukrainian armored vehicles were attacked by Russian drones. On the battle situation map, this area was also updated to show that the contested area has expanded by 1 kilometer up to this point. In other areas around Kharkiv, Russian attacks did not lead to any advances, and in the Belgorod area, there were no reports of ground battles today either. I will now report on the battle situation from Kupiansk to the Chasiv Yar area in the northeastern Luhansk region and the eastern Chasiv Yar area. In these areas, the Russians attacked 7 times in the Kupiansk area, 15 times in the Svatovo-Crimean battle, and 5 times around Siversk. In the Chasiv Yar area, there were 6 attacks. There were 11 attacks in the Toretsk direction, but in the Chasiv Yar area, there was a change that I will tell you about next. In the Chasiv Yar area, the Russians' reinforcement units have started attacking even in the outskirts. First, according to unconfirmed information, the Russians moved west in Kryhorivka, which is about 6 kilometers north of Chasiv Yar. They've reportedly begun an attack and appear to be infiltrating the nearby forest. On the situation map, I updated it to show the contested area now includes this forest and extends to the canal. According to geotagged footage, in the mining area just north of the second Chasiv Yar, Russian forces have sent soldiers and is attempting to turn it into a base. The Ukrainian military is eliminating them with drones. What you're seeing is footage from the Ukrainian side, showing them observing 2 Russian soldiers near the location on the map. On the battle situation map, the entire mine has been updated as an expanded contested area, and it also shows that the Russian forces have occupied up to this location. The area occupied this time is 2 square kilometers. In other areas around Toretsk, the Ukrainian forces sent reinforcements, and there is information that Russian supply lines encountered problems, so Russian attacks did not lead to any advances. I will now report on the situation in the southeastern Donetsk region, specifically in the areas of Pokrovsk, Kostiantynopil, and Velika Novosilka. In these areas, Russian forces carried out 46 attacks in the Pokrovsk direction and 22 attacks in the Kostiantynopil and Velika Novosilka directions. Pokrovsk direction. In this area, Russian forces are concentrating their troops in the outskirts of Pokrovsk and launching attacks. Among them, from Novolanivka to Yablunivka, which is located about 35 kilometers northeast of Pokrovsk, in the outskirts, Russian forces attempted to advance. The Russian forces attempted a frontal assault across the open ground with armored vehicles. They set up smoke screens near the boundary forest to conceal their positions, then deployed infantry, while the armored vehicles withdrew. What you're seeing is from the Russian side showing the area near the location on the map. You can see that this place is the contact line. On the battle situation map, I updated it to show that the disputed area has expanded by 1.3 kilometers up to this location. Other than that, although there were many attacks by the Russian army, they did not lead to any advances, so there were no changes to the battle situation map. Kostiantynopil direction. In this area, the Russian forces are attacking along the entire line of contact. According to geolocated footage, along the main road north of Odradna, the Russian forces have advanced and captured some Ukrainian soldiers. This shows that this location has come under Russian control. This footage was taken by the Russian side and shows the situation at the location on the map. On the battle map, we updated it to show that the Russians have occupied the area from the disputed zone up to this location, over a distance of about 1 kilometer. In other areas, such as the direction of Velika Novosilka, although the Russians are attacking, the Ukrainian forces are also defending, and no advances have been confirmed. In the southern Zaporizhzhia region and the southern Kherson region, the Russians launched an attack in these areas, but it ended in vain. Regarding the special operation called the Spiderweb Operation, in which the Ukrainian forces have been destroying Russian aircraft one after another, the famous Russian propaganda activist and military blogger Kalashnikov was disheartened and predicted that Russia would suffer a strategic defeat within this year. Kalashnikov said, "We were unable to prevent a special operation that will go down in textbooks." He stated that, as everyone thinks, the possibility of our war ending in defeat has increased, and went on to point out how Ukraine could achieve victory. The enemy can win simply by taking advantage of the weakening of the Russian Federation and prolonging the war. By the end of this year, our country's production will decline, many workers will lose their jobs, and the banks will become dysfunctional. We will face a serious economic crisis accompanied by a weak ruble and hyperinflation. Our government will face the fact that it cannot carry out military operations. It's the same as the Russian Revolution of 1917. The collapse will begin from the rear, not the front lines. And then, we will be reduced to the point where the best option for our country is for the front lines to gradually come to a halt and for an armistice to be declared. When we look back at that time, we'll realize that Operation Spiderweb was the turning point. What are our government's special surveillance agencies doing? I was so overcome with grief that I was about to cry. For your reference, these are comments made before today's destruction of the Crimean Bridge. That's all for today. Please feel free to share your analysis of the situation, your thoughts on the news, or any latest information in the comments section. Lastly, this channel has a sub-channel. There are also related Twitter, Note, Telegram, and Nico Duga accounts. On Telegram, there are videos for advanced users. On Note, you can read daily election updates for free, and on Nico Duga, videos about the war situation up until last August are posted. If anything happens, I will inform viewers through these media, so please subscribe or follow at least one of the channels. The links are in the description. Thank you very much for watching. ございました。